Hello, everybody, and welcome along to another episode of the ReLoaded podcast. Dave Bradshaw here. I'm full of festive cheer because we have a new general manager here in Defiant Wrestling, and what a choice. What a decision by those at the top of Defiant Wrestling to put Prince Amin as our new boss. I know James R. Kennedy, who is with us here, is just as delighted as I am. How are you doing?
What the hell were they thinking? Honestly, and I know you're laughing. I know you find this funny because it's...
I do.
It's almost at my expense in a way that you find it funny. Part of you probably thinks this is a good decision, but... Dave, Prince Amin, what the hell were they thinking? I mean, we've had Primate, we've had Martin Kirby, we've had Stu Bennett as a general manager, and now we get Prince Amin. Can you imagine the chaos this man will cause?
Well, you weren't in favour of half of the names you just listed, so you're never happy.
Don't let facts get in the way of a good story. I'm disgusted with this decision personally.
Well, Amin came out in a lovely suit. I think he wants us to call him General Amin now.
Oh God,
which I think is. I'm not quite sure if he understands the meaning of that, but anyway, he is our general manager, and he's already made some exciting decisions. So we've had some tweets about it. Shall I read you what the Defiant fans think about it?
Go on then.
We've got Kieran at Prestige Trio saying, I think Real Prince Amin is going to be a great GM. Ugh. He was my choice, and I'm happy to see him back. We've got Liam, and this one's weird though, Liam Johnson at Liam Johnson _PW saying, you like this actually, at Top Class Kennedy would make a much better GM. His values and managerial skills would take the brand to new heights, not like the foolish Prince Amin.
Oh, Liam, take a bow, son. That is fantastic. You know, that's the best Christmas present, the best early Christmas present that I could have got. Thank you so much. And I love a man who speaks the truth.
You were sort of allowing rumours to spread last week that it was you, weren't you?
Well, you know, you have to... These people are idiots, Dave. You have to feed the machine. You have to keep them occupied somehow. Otherwise, there'll be riots in the streets. They'll be robbing stores. They'll be doing all sorts of debauchery. You have to keep them occupied.
It was nothing to do with the idea that if you said it enough times, it might come true.
Well,
that was what it felt like.
Maybe 10% of that, but anyway...
Anyway, busy week this past Sunday on Loaded. And talking of surprises, by the way, as well as Prince Amin becoming general manager, what about this? Kanji, the new women's champion. That is one of the biggest upsets in Loaded history. What did you make of that?
I couldn't believe it. You know, as much as I was still reeling over the fact that Prince Amin was the new Defiant GM. Kanji coming out of absolutely nowhere. And within 2 matches, she becomes the new Defiant Women's Champ. And it was in a gauntlet match as well. But what an opportunistic victory. If you actually look at what happened, Dave, she came in just as Bea Priestley, the reigning champ, was eliminated. You know, it was almost like everything was changing before our very eyes. In fact, it was. That's exactly what happened. What a huge win for Kanji. And she's already captured the hearts of the Defiant faithful.
Well, we've had a tweet on this subject from Kimmy. At KimmyJB17 saying, I'm really interested in the women's division right now. We saw on Loaded that Lana Austin has a way to get the championship she deserves. But despite not being victorious in the gauntlet match, I think she has yet another plan in mind to dethrone Kanji. If you are Kanji, the new women's champion, how worried would you be by the threat posed by Lana Austin?
Oh, you have to be worried. No doubt about it. I mean, Lana Austin is not going to take it lightly. The fact that she was the last to be beaten and eliminated from that women's gauntlet. In many respects, Bradshaw, Kanji cost Lana Austin her dream. And her dream was to become the Defiant Women's Champion and lord it over everyone else, every other female in that division. Kanji took that away from her. And now there's going to be hell to pay. We've seen what Lana Austin has done to Bea Priestley before. We've seen what she's done to everyone else. If you're Kanji, you're looking over your back because Lana Austin's coming for you.
Well, thank you everyone who's tweeted us in, both about Prince Amin and about Kanji winning the women's title as well. Do keep those tweets coming in. You can tweet us at Defiant Res. That's Defiant WRES. Use the hashtag WeAreDefiant to join the conversation. So Kanji, the new women's champion, but we had developments in a couple of other championship divisions as well this past Sunday. Martin Kirby, after mocking Walter, the internet champion, has been given or really ordered by our new GM, Prince Amin, General Amin, to have a an internet title opportunity. I use the word opportunity loosely, against Walter in 2 weeks' time. Has there ever been anyone less happy to get a title shot than Martin Kirby?
I wouldn't say so, no. If you look at what Walter has done in Defiant Wrestling, the way he's rampaged through all the competition, you know, this is not a good situation for Martin Kirby. He was coming off a huge win at Refuse to Lose against Joe Hendry. Massive win in that I Quit match. He managed to defeat the prestigious one. All the momentum in the world. Then he comes out, cock of the walk, refuses to say anything, explain his actions after that match. And all of a sudden he finds himself in there, Walter standing behind him. Kirby tried to make friends with the big Austrian, that didn't work. But Dave, this is actually something I wanted to ask you about, because you've been very outspoken about Martin Kirby in the recent past. I'm guessing here, but I'm going to say you're viewing this as your early Christmas present. The thought of Walter mollicating Martin Kirby.
Yeah, well, Martin Kirby, I think, is going to get what he deserved. The disrespect with which he treated his opponent last Sunday, and then not just his opponent on Sunday, but some of the other members of the Defiant roster while he was talking on the microphone, was every bit what we've come to expect from Martin Kirby in recent times. And Walter, for one, decided to call his bluff. And when it came to it, it turned out that Martin Kirby wasn't quite as much bite as he was bark, didn't it?
Well, it did, but at the end of the day, you know, it might be a very dubious distinction to step into the ring against Walter and get your arse handed to you, for lack of a better phrase, but it's still a championship opportunity for Martin Kirby. What if he's the man who can dethrone Walter? And, you know, I'm almost saying that tongue-in-cheek because, quite frankly, you've heard me say this before, I don't think there's anyone can dethrone Walter. He'll go to his grave with that Defiant Internet Championship, but it's going to be fun to see how Martin Kirby can rally against the big demon from Austria.
Well, we will find out in 2 Sundays' time whether it will be Walter or Martin Kirby who finishes 2018 as the Internet Champion. I have a hunch I already know which one it will be. But if you want to join us on there, make sure you join us every Sunday. Loaded, of course, 8 p.m. Live, well, not live, but streaming on YouTube. And then, of course, you can catch it afterwards as well if you're not around. 8 p.m. UK time for Loaded every single Sunday. Now, you use the word rampage to describe Walter's path through the Internet title division. I do want to talk about the man Rampage as well. We saw him on Loaded this past week as David Starr, the man who obviously has his sights set on that title, came out on Loaded this past Sunday and demanded a shot at Rampage's world title. Rampage said he hadn't earned it. Well, that was the response from the champion. Do you agree?
Well, I'm 50-50 on this one, I have to be honest, because David Starr is a top professional wrestler. You know, he earns his stripes all over the world. But in Defiant Wrestling, when it comes to title matches, he hasn't been that successful, Dave. You know, we have to face the facts. We have to be honest about it. Come crunch time, David Starr has choked time and time again. And we've debated this on commentary at ringside before. David Starr maybe views this as, you know, his last chance to prove himself in Defiant Wrestling. Why not go after the alpha male? And that's certainly what Rampage is. I thought it was dangerous personally that David Starr promised to beat the crap out of Rampage. I really did. And he said he would do anything, and that's a quote, do anything to get a shot at the Defiant World Heavyweight Championship. Well, he might live to rue those words, because Rampage, we've seen he's never turned down a challenge in his life. Even if he has badly taped ribs, he's going to be there when David Starr wants to fight, and fight they will. It's going to be a hell of a match. They haven't seen eye to eye recently, and this is why, because David Starr wants what Rampage has.
Well, it'll be a hell of a match if it ever happens, because Rampage so far does not seem keen to have the match. He says that, why does David Starr, this is a good question, right? Why does David Starr necessarily get to jump to the front of the line just because he emerged on the stage at the end of Refuse to Lose? As far as Rampage, and granted, it's not fully Rampage's decision. Obviously, I'm sure Prince Amin will have something to say about it as well as the general manager. But ultimately, Rampage's view is that David Starr hasn't done enough to prove that he's the #1 contender yet. And there is a valid argument there.
Well, yes and no. Yes, in the sense that, as I've said, David Starr when he's been faced with ultimate challenges in Defiant Wrestling for the championships, he hasn't been able to get the job done. But there's another side to that coin, and it's the fact that the Jewish Canon, the product, the man who's really good at Twitter, by the way, is also really, really good at wrestling. And just because he's choked in Defiant Wrestling in the past doesn't mean he'll do so in the future. I think if you're Rampage, I'm not suggesting for 1 second, by the way, that Rampage is scared or intimidated or, you know, doesn't want to wrestle David Starr. I think this is all part of the mind games that Rampage has started playing. I mean, we saw what happened previously where David Starr was almost cocked and ready to smash Rampage with his own championship. Rampage turns around, suddenly the Jewish Canon has a smile on his face, goes to present the title, and then boom, Rampage with a big boot straight to the face. That was a statement, if anything. And then there's a verbal one, as you said, Dave, Rampage saying Starr doesn't deserve it. This is such an interesting scenario. I can't wait to see what happens next, quite frankly, and I hope they are going to have that championship match, because it's going to be a hell of a fight.
Well, as we head into 2019, then that continuing interesting dynamic between Rampage and Starr, I'm sure, will continue into the new year. Don't forget, by the way, the next time we are live recording episodes of Loaded is January the 5th. We are in Newcastle, and there are some tickets still available at wearedefiant.com/tickets. Of course, it features the Defiant debut of the man that gravity forgot. Pac will be with us in Newcastle to start 2019, so you would be a fool to miss it. Now, that's what happened in the past week, on last Sunday on Loaded. Rampage saying no to David Starr, Kirby being given a shot against Walter, Kanji winning the women's title. I want to look ahead, though, to this Sunday. And our main event on this Sunday's Loaded is one that I think I'm certainly relishing, and I know most Defiant fans are relishing. It is the return to in-ring action of our now former general manager, Primate, against the man who tried to end his career, the young bull, Gabriel Kidd. As far as I'm concerned, Primate will look to finish what Kidd couldn't finish when he tried to do it to Primate, because I think Primate will try to end Gabriel Kidd's career this Sunday.
Well, this isn't going to be a wrestling match. This is going to be a massacre. Plain and simple. It really is as simple as that, because you think Primate's a beast reborn. All that rage bottled up inside of him for so many months when he couldn't wrestle. You know, his jaw was hanging on by a thread. He could not do what he loves to do, and that's enter the ring and compete against the very best in the world that we have in Defiant Wrestling. And all the while, Gabriel Kidd was rubbing that in his face. Now, as you know, Dave, I've had my own thoughts on that, because I think Gabriel Kidd was well within his rights, you know, to lord over someone like Primate, because that's what top athletes do. You can have friendships in this industry. They don't last for long. I'm not suggesting Kidd and Primate were ever friends, but there would have been a respect level there before. Kidd has no respect for anyone anymore, as we've seen. And now, shoes on the other foot, Primate has no respect for Kidd, and he wants to tear him apart. If you're Gabriel Kidd, you're not just looking out for Primate, though. Don't forget what's been happening in the background. We've got that creep Rory Coyle running around the place as well. Sorry,
we'll talk about Rory Coyle in a minute, but I just want to revisit what you just said. That kind of moral equivalence. You've got, oh well, Kidd was after Primate, and now Primate's after Kidd, so they're both on the same level somehow. That's not what happened. That's not what happened at all. Gabriel Kidd tried to end Primate's career. His career, at the time, we thought was already over in ring, but Kidd tried to absolutely make 100% sure that Primate could never return to the ring and possibly would never be able to speak again by shattering the guy's jaw at the end of fight or flight. Now, if Primate wants to get revenge, that's fair game. It doesn't mean that Primate is in any way as bad as Kidd. Primate is absolutely within his rights to go after Gabriel Kidd.
But we've been over this, Bradshaw.
And you were wrong last time.
Oh, come on. I'm never wrong. People that look like me are never wrong, let's be honest. Beauty and brains. But anyway, enough about me. As for Gabriel Kidd, you know, when you look at what's been happening with Primate, you said it yourself at Fight or Flight. What happened, Dave? At the end of that Defiant Championship match, that title opportunity that Gabriel Kidd had to become the World Heavyweight Champion, Primate, then the General Manager, stuck his nose into Kidd's business. That's exactly what happened. He had no business being in the ring at all, and Kidd let him know it. You can't blame Gabriel Kidd for being upset that Primate came in there to rub. Oh, come on, you're really going to skew things. Come on, it's almost a new year. Turn over a new leaf. Start seeing things the right way for once.
You're a broken record. He was, for the last time, he was the general manager. Of course he was allowed in the ring. And even if he shouldn't have been in the ring, which is a dubious argument in the first place, it doesn't give Gabriel Kidd the right to try and permanently damage the man's jaw. What planet is that acceptable?
Well, listen, the wrestling ring is no place for anything other than violence. That it's a battleground. It's a place of war. Let's be honest. You and I have both stepped foot in a wrestling ring and then very quickly tried to step our feet out of it because we know what can happen to human beings inside there. Gabriel Kidd, listen, he was all fired up. He was all full of testosterone. This was his big opportunity to become the man around Defiant Wrestling and topple the alpha male rampage, and then suddenly here comes Primate out of nowhere. What else was he supposed to do but lash out?
What else was he? You are just such an apologist for him. What is? I don't get it. Look, as far as I'm concerned, I think as far as most Defiant Wrestling fans are concerned, Gabriel Kidd is the worst kind of person. If anyone's new to Defiant and you're wondering quite why there's this level of hatred that Defiant fans have for Gabriel Kidd, I want to remind everyone of exactly what Gabriel Kidd pretended to be for such a long time. He was this supposedly happy-go-lucky underdog, 19 years old, youngest internet champion, defeated Cody Rhodes, had all the crowd behind him. And it turned out the whole thing from beginning to end was a total charade. Total charade the whole time. Gabriel Kidd was playing people. We've now seen his true colours. He turned against against Prince Amin, in that Magnificent Seven match back in March. And then since then, look at his track record. Just look at what Gabriel Kidd has done since that Magnificent Seven match. He's taken Simon Miller out of commission in the Ringmaster tournament. We've talked about what he's done to Primate. He's left a path of destruction behind him, and then he's laughed about it. He's laughing about playing with the future of people's careers. He's got that future of people's careers in his hands, and he enjoys the power. He enjoys the destruction. That's why people hate him.
Do you know why, though?
Go on.
Well, simply because in the young bull's mind, the only career that he cares about is his. And you raise a good point, though, Dave. I have to admit, you raise a very good point when you brought up that clown who's now apparently our boss, Prince Amin. I'm not calling him General Amin. They can get to hell with that. He's Prince Amin to me, and even calling him that hurts my soul. But our general manager, the new general manager, he used to be friends with Gabriel Kidd. He was a mentor to him, blah, blah, blah. Kidd stabbed him in the back. Okay, all the rest of it. But think about what's happening now. It's all going against Gabriel Kidd. Prince Amin is the general manager. Primate is coming back. You've got Rory Coyle simmering somewhere in a boiler room in the background. It's all going against Kidd. And I'll say it again. I feel sorry for the young man. I really do.
Well, Gabriel Kidd on Twitter and elsewhere has been claiming again and again and again that he absolutely has no fear going into this match against Primate. But I put it to you that if Gabriel Kidd does indeed have no fear, then he's utterly deluded. Utterly deluded. He should be terrified going into this Sunday because Primate will stop at nothing. And there will be a bloodthirsty crowd at Loaded on Sunday as well because everybody, well, apart from you apparently, but everybody else wants to see Gabriel Kidd get what's coming to him. And that's what's going to happen on Sunday. He needs to very quickly reevaluate his assessment of what this Sunday is about because otherwise it could be a very, very nasty evening for him.
He needs to run away. That's what he needs to do. He needs to get on that treadmill and start training to do a half marathon because Primate will chase him all over Newcastle. There's no doubt about that. But if you're Gabriel Kidd, I know you're an ultra-competitive young man, the young bull, and a future world champion, in my opinion. But this, you have to pick your fights. And Primate is not a man to be trifled with at the minute. He's barely even a man.
I don't know if Kidd is a future world champion. I don't know if Kidd has a future. It's genuinely, it's that serious. Like, Primate could actually end Gabriel Kidd's career as an active wrestler this Sunday. That is how angry Primate is, and an angry Primate ready to go, medically cleared, is just so dangerous. I just don't think Gabriel Kidd has any idea what's coming for him.
Well, maybe not, but, Dave, you say that no one can beat Primate, Gabriel Kidd's got no chance. There's a tag team in Defiant Wrestling right now that everyone's having a problem beating, and you know who I'm talking about, don't you?
Yeah, let's move on and talk about that, because Aussie Open, of course, the reigning tag team champions, have been utterly unbeatable since they became the tag team champions for a second time at No Regrets at the end of April. They will surpass 250 days as champions over New Year, unless something dramatic happens between now and then. It is the longest tag title reign in Defiant Wrestling history. And let me give you a list of everyone they've beaten. They've beaten CCK twice. Once it was Brooks and Kid Lykos. Once, of course, now Brooks and Jonathan Gresham. They've beaten Havoc and Haskins to win the belts for a second time. Beaten Alpha Bad. A lot of people thought that Yestin Reese and Kip Sabian were going to become the tag team champions after the year they've had. Alpha Bad couldn't put Aussie Open away. Prospect, the Filthy Click. That is a very impressive list, and you get to a point that you're running out of teams, and you know, as you go into this new year, into 2019, very similar question actually to the one we've been asking about Walter, who's undefeated still here in Defiant. People that we've been asking on this program, you know, what will it take? At what point will someone be able to beat Walter for the internet title? Well, you could ask the same at this point, I think, about the tag titles and Aussie Open, because they have made that tag division their own.
They have, and you know, I really did believe that the surprise element of Brooks and Gresham, the original CCK, I thought they might get the job done. But Aussie Open, they showed why they've been champions for, what is it, close to 250 days? That's ridiculous. You know, when you think about the competition in the Defiant Tag Team division, 200 plus days is just... It's the kind of thing that if you said, when Aussie Open won those tag team titles, if you had said to me, you know, they're going to hold them until the end of the year, at least, and over 250 days and counting, I would have laughed in your face. And not because Aussie Open aren't impressive, they always are, but because, as I said, the competition is so fierce. And another thing I noticed, Bradshaw, as well, was you probably spotted this yourself, because you fancy yourself as quite the observant type, don't you? I mean, personally, I think you need glasses with some of the nonsense you speak at ringside. But anyway, Kyle Fletcher looks to have muscled up a bit in recent weeks. And that means Aussie Open are only going to get stronger. Now, he's not as big or powerful as Mark Davis, but not many people are. And you just think... they're improving all the time. They're not resting on their laurels. That's scary. There's no one else. There's no more competition.
Yeah, well, Kyle Fletcher absolutely has bulked up. There's no doubt about that. He's now, the most recent weigh-in he had, he's over that 205-pound barrier, so he is now officially a heavyweight. And that wasn't the case before. In fact, he was, I think, something like 20 pounds lighter than that, right? So he has added muscle mass, and he is now... yeah, as you say, not as big as his tag team partner, but certainly getting up there. You know, you meet Kyle Fletcher in the flesh, like face to face, and you think, no, this is a big guy. Like, Kyle Fletcher's a big guy. Maybe he doesn't always look as big because he's standing next to Mark Davis most of the time, but these are two intimidating athletes, and they are very, very hard for anyone to beat. Now, of that, we'll talk about some new possible opponents for them in a minute, but of that list I've given you, CCK, Havoc and Haskins, Alpha Bad, Prospect, Filthy Click, are there any of those who you think were unlucky, who might be just on the cusp of challenging again and maybe taking those tag titles?
I'm with you. I really thought Alpha Bad were going to be the team in Defiant Wrestling. I think we've witnessed what Yestin Reese and Kip Sabian have done elsewhere, as you alluded to. I really believed that, you know, 2018 going into 2019 was going to belong to Alpha Bad. They were going to take over the mantle from Aussie Open and become the tag team in Defiant. It didn't happen. And again, maybe that speaks to the fact that Aussie Open are improving all the time. They're not content just to sit there and say, yeah, we're the champs, we're going to turn up when we want, we'll never lose a match, you know, act like their shit doesn't stink, so to speak. They are always trying to find ways to get better, I guess is the best way to put it. And they are getting better. Alpha Bad could come back into the picture. You always have to look over your shoulder with Havoc and Haskins. God knows where they are right now and what foul, depraved things they're getting up to.
Yeah, but hang on. With Havoc and Haskins, though, I mean, yes, in the long run, possibly, although that relationship between Havoc and Haskins is so turbulent, you never know from one day to another whether they're going to be, you know, working as a team or hitting each other over the head with barbed wire baseball bats, you know, with those two. But also at the moment, those two are very preoccupied with this ongoing issue they have with the anti-fun police. So in the short term, at least, Havoc and Haskins they don't have their full attention on the tag team title division, I don't think. So you can discount them at least for now, right? So that is one major pair of contenders out of the way. I've got a couple of other names of teams who haven't challenged Aussie Open for the titles. First one I've put is, I was just trying to think of some. I was scribbling some down before we came on air. Nathan Cruz and John Bad Bones Klinger. I don't know if that tag team that was the main event on our return episode of Loaded 10 days ago or so. I don't know, was that a one-time deal? Because they didn't win the match, but they were pretty impressive, and you could see those two growing as a team.
That's a good point, and quite frankly, whenever one has the opportunity to see incredible wrestlers like Nathan Cruz, the professional Nathan Cruz, and John Badbone Klinger, the first ringmaster champion in Defiant Wrestling. Whenever you have the chance to see athletes like that, you should grab it. And if they work together as a team, there's nothing they couldn't accomplish together. And I think that would be a really interesting challenge, actually, for Aussie Open. Who else have you got? Come on, hit me with them. And just remember, the New Rockers don't count. I know you were a huge fan back in the 90s, but they're not a team anymore, Dave, so you can leave them off the list.
What are you talking about? You're so
come
weird
on.
today.
Everyone knows that you were a huge Leif Cassidy fan. Everyone knows it.
I don't know what you're talking about. Anyway, I do have two more names. The New Rockers are not on there. The Hunter Brothers, who I think are one of the most underrated teams in Britain and have been for a number of years. We've seen them have some success here in Defiant, so them possibly. But you want to know who my dark horse pick is?
Go for it.
Who I don't know if anyone's mentioned. They're actually going to be on Loaded this coming Sunday, is the South Coast Connection, SCC. Kelly Six, Ashley Dunn. Those two, I just think they're so exciting to watch. And both of them have been overseas in the past few months, really building up their game. So they're more dangerous than ever. We'll see what kind of form they're in, of course, this Sunday when we see them in action. But going into 2019, if you had to put your money on someone in the long, I'm not saying immediately, but sometime in 2019 to give Aussie Open a run for their money, SCC. You heard it here first.
Well, that could be a good shout. And I do remember, now that you bring it to mind, I do remember you saying to me off air one time that the newfound aggression that Six and Dunn has impressed you personally, because beforehand maybe they lacked that. They came in almost as Will Ospreay's boys. Like a lot of people thought they only got the gig because of Ospreay. Well, they've shed that now. They've earned their stripes, and as you say, they've been all around the world. They've been gaining experience all the while. I'm not quite sure they're at the level of Aussie Open yet, but I could be wrong. It's happened before, not many times, but it has happened, and it is a match I'd love to see. Quite frankly, I'd love to see Aussie Open against SCC. I think it'd be a high flyer.
I'm not trying to say they're at that. I'm not sure they're at that level yet. But if you look at trajectory, the direction of travel going into 2019, certainly SCC, I think. Well, we'll see on Sunday, I guess. But I think they are. I've seen them wrestle in a couple of other places recently, and to me, they are a significantly better team than they were 6 months ago. And if they continue to improve at that rate, then you could see by the middle of 2019 they're going to be one of the best teams in Britain. And at that point, they're a serious threat, right?
Oh, no doubt. They are future tag team champions. Whether it's in Defiant Wrestling or elsewhere remains to be seen. And whether they can dethrone Aussie Open, that also remains to be seen. I would hesitate to say it because they are two talented young guys. But I just think there's something about Aussie Open. You mentioned Walter earlier on. They have that same kind of aura. Maybe not in terms of size, although again Kyle Fletcher's muscled up a bit. But in terms of, they've been so impressive. They've fought off all comers. They've not knocked back a challenge, and they always find a way. And that is the mark of a champion.
Well, we will see. Who do you think will dethrone Aussie Open, if anyone, as we head into 2019? Will Aussie Open go a full year? It's possible. Very possible that Aussie Open go a full year as tag team champions. Let us know your thoughts on the current state of the tag team division using the hashtag #WeAreDefiant. Now, there's one more thing I do want to talk about very quickly before we go off air today, and that is what is poised to kick off Sunday's Loaded. Now, Joe Hendry, you talked about him earlier, the prestigious one. We haven't seen or heard from Joe Hendry since that I Quit match defeat to Martin Kirby at Refuse to Lose. Now, I have no idea what physical condition Joe Hendry is in, because Kirby, after all, mounted quite the assault on that leg. But also, more importantly, I think, I've got no idea what condition psychologically Joe Hendry is in after the humiliation of losing that kind of match to your arch nemesis like Hendry did. What are you expecting? You know him better than I do. What are you expecting us to hear from Joe Hendry when he gets in the ring at the start of Loaded on Sunday?
3 words, and I hate to use them because I consider myself a broadcast journalist. I like to get inside the minds of the talent in Defiant Wrestling when they'll give me the time of day, and Joe Hendry, he always has. But 3 words, literally no idea. I've no idea what this could be. I know Hendry, as you say, has to be cut up about what happened at Refused to Lose this past November. You know, that I Quit match against Martin Kirby didn't go his way. Circumstances are one thing, but at the end of the day, Joe Hendry lost. And that has to really hurt him. Because you think about the burning spirit inside Hendry as a competitor, that confidence has to be knocked a bit. Because he really believed that he was going to slay Martin Kirby and he was going to go on to regain the Defiant World Heavyweight Championship and be back on top of the mountain, possibly with some fan support, which I don't think anyone could have seen coming, least of all the prestigious one. But one thing I will say, Dave, is I seriously doubt Hendry's asked for this time for no reason. Do you know what I mean? I don't think he's going to dismiss the fans like Martin Kirby did. I think he's going to have something to say, and when Hendry talks, people listen. And that's been true whether it's good or bad. I've literally no idea what he's going to say, so I can't wait to hear it.
Have you spoken to him? Have you spoken to him at all since Refused to Lose?
Listen, I've tried to call the man. I've texted him. I even sent him a quick MySpace message. He didn't reply to that one. I've no idea why. But I have had no contact with the prestigious one. In all seriousness, no contact at all. And that's very unlike Joe Hendry. He's always someone who has time for his friends, and I consider myself a friend of Joe Hendry, not of you. So usually he has time, especially in the run-up to a time of year like we're coming. It's a season of goodwill, but I don't think Joe Hendry's feeling very good right now.
Well, it certainly is the season of goodwill. We do have to stop it right there. Don't forget, as I said, and as we've been talking about throughout the show, the next episode of Loaded is this Sunday at 8 o'clock UK time on the Defiant Wrestling YouTube channel, including, of course, we're going to hear from Joe Hendry, but that main event, the return to in-ring action of Primate to demolish the young bull Gabriel Kidd. What a Christmas present that is going to be. And speaking of Christmas, this is the last time that we're going to be on air before Christmas Day. So have you got any festive message you'd like to give the ReLoaded listeners?
I hope everyone, you know, I really do mean this. And sometimes, you know, a lot of the time, I like to bust everyone's balls and basically, you know, infuriate people. It's what I like to do. I've always been that way. Ask my parents. But I would like to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas and a very Happy New Year. And I really, really hope that the millions around the world who receive one for Christmas enjoy that signed James R. Kennedy 8x10. You know, I mean, I've been so busy, Dave, signing these things. My arm hurts, my hand hurts. I've got writer's cramp, for crying out loud.
You know what? You know what? For a minute there, I thought this is going to be a really nice, out of character, but nice Christmas message, and then you ruined it.
Ah, well, come on. Last Christmas I gave you my heart in the vet. Where have we heard that before? Never mind.
Yeah, from your stepfather, I think, wasn't it?
Oh, come on.
Well, don't forget you can follow Mr. Kennedy at Top Class Kennedy on Twitter. You can follow me at Dave Bradshaw. And as we've said, Defiant Wrestling's Twitter at DefiantRes. Join the conversation using the hashtag #WeAreDefiant. We'll see you on Loaded this Sunday at 8 o'clock. In the meantime, from all of us here at ReLoaded, a very Merry Christmas, and we will speak to you again next week.